I just want to put a disclaimer out. This episode today is unlike any episode we've done before.
I was spiralling towards not being here. My plan was to get some insulin from work and take it home and overdose.
Obviously, this is not an easy thing to talk about, but I do think it's important to talk about if you're happy to.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Carol. I am a survivor of and domestic.
His words were that I had allowed them to do those things to me, and I believed it. I used that letter. I lived that letter, stayed by my bedside for years. I lived by it. Everything bad that happened, when I got breast cancer, I deserved it. I was. And I just thought, oh, it's over, it's over. But it wasn't over. There was no dignity there that night at all. Oof, sorry. I just wanted someone to actually put their arms around me and tell me everything was going to be all right. I was going to be all right. And nobody did. Nobody ever did.
This episode today is unlike any episode we've done before. Over the last 10 months, I have been working with somebody who I am really proud to be introducing to the world and to this show. However, I just want to let you know that this episode is not an easy watch or listen. This is an episode where we will be talking in graphic detail about the themes and this person's personal experience of domestic abuse, rape and violence. So please make sure that if you do listen to this, that this is something you want to listen to. If any of these issues that we are discussing in this episode affect you directly, or you know of anybody that it may affect, please know that there are links and numbers to helplines that are there to support you below this video. So please do make sure you check them out. I know this might not be the usual type of episode and not particularly an enjoyable episode, but I do think it is an incredibly important, powerful and insightful episode that we must do. I know this is a big thing. I know you feel a little bit nervous.
A little bit.
Yeah. Understandably.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's so much I've come to learn about your journey, obviously, through working with you over this year, that it's kind of hard to know where to start. But I think what makes logical sense for us sharing your journey today is that day that you spoke to me for the first time, that you reached out, and we just did one coaching session. You just said, look, I've been to your event, I've seen your stuff on social media, I really want to book a call with you, I think you could help.
Yeah.
And then, as I always say at the beginning of the session, like I always just say, what's the objective for today? And then we went into it.
We did, yeah.
If you take yourself back to that day and that call, where were you at and why did you reach out?
At the event, you did an exercise with us and you were asking us to dig deeper and dig deeper. And I realised I'd hit a wall. I couldn't actually dig any deeper.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of limiting beliefs, you called them, that I had. And I wanted to do something to change it because I knew where I was mentally and physically. I was spiralling towards not being here. I'd even had suicidal ideations. And I was scared that they would become more than that. And so I booked a call. I wasn't actually sure what that was going to be like. I didn't know anything about mindset, life coaching. And I certainly didn't expect to open up on the first call.
So going back to the event then, what made you go there? If you say, I
scrolled through and saw that you were doing a live event, and I've got a couple of friends that are really big into sort of Tony Robbins and that kind of thing.
Right, okay, yeah.
So we decided to go together.
So it's probably more a bit of it's a social thing. I kind of see Matt's stuff on social media.
Had seen you a lot on social media.
But it wasn't this is going to be a light bulb moment. I'm not really going to change my life. I'm just going for a social event.
I'm going to see what,
And then things came out of that.
Yeah, big style.
It's
They
like-
left with different... They took different things away from it than I did. And are still flying with what they're doing.
Mm.
And I came away thinking, I need to do something.
So then the first call,
Yeah.
this is somebody who's just been to an event, realised they've hit a brick wall. Those suicidal thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to us about that for anybody that's never had them.
It's really scary. Really scary, because quite clearly in my mind, I had a plan. I knew what I would do. And I wasn't at work at the time, which is just as well, because my plan was to get some insulin from work and take it home and overdose and not wake up. And that was what scared me, because I would have been able to do that if I had been at work.
Wow. And this is just over a year ago, right?
Yeah.
But you booked the call instead. Do you want to just talk us through that call as you remember it and what happened?
I remember telling you that something awful had happened to me, and I hadn't really talked about it to people because the one person that knew about it had walked out on me because of it and had said, never disclose what happened to anyone if you want to have friends, if you don't want to end up on your own.
Yeah.
And when I said that to you, you just said, well, tell me then. I'm here. And I knew I couldn't just say, oh, I've got somewhere else to go, because I booked an hour. I couldn't just... But I couldn't look at you.
Yeah.
I couldn't look at you because I was really scared that I was going to see that disgust in your face that I saw in his. And so I did tell you what happened, but I literally had to look at my feet. I couldn't look at you. And I remember after I'd told you what happened, you said, I am absolutely appalled. And I thought the next words were going to be at me.
Yeah.
But then his name came out. And it was like, whoa, that's a shock. That's different.
Yeah. This is one of the things as well for anyone listening that's a little bit different in my style in coaching, versus counsellors, versus even just other coaches. I always say to my clients, I've got opinions and I'm going to give them. A lot of like counselling and so on, it's meant to just guide you and give you the right questions so that you can come up with your own answers. And I do a lot of that with people as well. But I also believe in using my gut instinct and intuition. And for you, I just knew in that moment you needed to hear that. You needed somebody to affirm some common sense.
Yeah, because it definitely wasn't common sense to me. I
At the
actually
time,
believed everything was my fault.
Now, if you're happy to share it, could you just tell us exactly what it was that you disclosed to me? And I want to say that obviously this is not an easy thing to talk about, but I do think it's important to talk about if you're happy to.
Yeah, I told you about a night when I had been assaulted. Well, actually, I was raped. And do you want me to tell the actual?
I want you to tell as
rape?
much as you're happy to tell.
I was on my way to meet my partner in the pub. He'd been out five-a-side with his friends. And the girlfriends, the wives, etc., always got a text. And if I wasn't working, then I would go and meet them. It was raining, so I decided to cut through the park. And I could see someone up ahead on the phone, and you never thought anything of it. But as I got nearer to that person, he sort of stepped out and I stepped to the side to go round him, but he stepped as well. And I, like you do, automatically I said, oh, I'm sorry. But he kept moving the same way as I did. And then I started to feel really uncomfortable, and I decided to turn round and just go back home. But as I turned round, a second person appeared behind me, and I felt really unsafe and afraid, and I just thought, I'm going to have to run home. And I literally tried to push the second person out of the way, but I wasn't strong enough, I wasn't quick enough, and I just got this almighty wallop on my face, which sent me reeling backwards, and both of them then pushed me onto the floor. And I'd always thought I would kick and scream, but I couldn't scream. Nothing came out of my mouth at all. I tried. And I felt guilty about that for so long, because I didn't scream. And as I was on the floor, I was kicking and trying to get away. So one of them actually stood astride my head and onto my arms. But I was still kicking because the other one was trying to get my jeans and my underwear off. And so the one that was standing on my arms picked up my left arm and really twisted and pulled, and I just felt this awful pain. I didn't know at the time it was broken. That I discovered later, but I felt pain. And I was really scared by this point. And I just decided that I knew what was going to happen, and I just thought, this is going to be better than losing my life. And so I was raped, and I just thought, oh, it's over, it's over. But it wasn't over. They swapped places. And the second person was really, really rough, and he was really laughing, and he didn't finish. He did finish, but he hadn't finished with me. And he took his Budweiser bottle and he kept ramming that inside me. And eventually it tore my perineum. And that was so painful. And then the other guy laughed and urinated all over me. And then they did run off laughing. And I just remember lying there, I don't know how long, scared to move in case they were still around, even though I couldn't hear the laughter anymore. And I did get up. Somehow I managed to get my jeans on and get home. And I got inside the house and locked the door. I didn't put the lights on. I pulled on the curtains and I just sat in the corner until my partner came home. And then he literally, I had a wound on my face. And I think I was just sort of rocking and crying. And he just rang an ambulance. And so we went to the hospital, which was chaotic, really, because my head was all over the place at this point. And A&E was as noisy places anyway, and full of people that I wouldn't normally have been scared of, but people who were drunk and loud, and I just didn't feel safe.
Yeah.
But a lovely staff nurse came out and took me into a cubicle. And she took me into a cubicle on my own. She wanted to make sure that the person I was with wasn't responsible for my injuries.
Yeah.
And she did ask if I'd been raped, because there was a spate of it at the time. And when I nodded, because I don't think I spoke, I think I just nodded, and she said they were duty bound to inform the police, but I didn't have to report it if I didn't want to. But they needed to let them know. And I did nod. But because the police were coming, I couldn't even get cleaned up. I couldn't be put into a gown. I had to literally just sit there.
It's just horrific.
Because they need the forensics if you are going to go ahead.
And how long was that?
I don't know. It sort of all melted into infinity, really. It felt like forever, but it probably was maybe about half an hour max. And when they arrived, it was a male police surgeon. And it's not their fault, because there weren't any female police surgeons on duty. And I did consent to the rape exam. And they had to be present in the room when my clothes came off so they could put them in bags, evidence bags. So it was just, there was no dignity there that night at all. Oof, sorry.
It's okay.
And and there were no doors on the cubicles either. It's just a curtain. But the nurse that was with me, she turned the bed round so that anyone were to poke their head round, they wouldn't see what was going on.
Yeah.
And she stayed with me and held my hand. And I just remember feeling like I'd been violated all over again that night then. It was painful because I was ripped already. And I cried. I did cry at that point. And I remember looking up at the staff nurse that was with me, and she was crying as well. She was holding my hand and crying. And then she turned out that she was a midwife. And so rather than have the male A&E doctor stitch up the perineum, she could do it if I wanted. And I did.
Yeah.
And then they turned their attention to the fact that my arm was just dangling by my side. And the adrenaline had started to kick off, ease off rather. So the pain was kicking in there. So she did clean me up. She got me x-rayed, 2 broken bones in my left arm, which I've been left with nerve damage and a lot weaker arm. And then the police wanted to get statements. But by then I'd had painkillers. I think the shock had really kicked in then. And I was a bit incoherent, really. I just didn't know if I was coming or going. So she suggested that they go round and speak to me at home the following day, where my partner could be there and support me. And I was really surprised that they agreed to that, but they did, because she just said, you're not going to get anything else out of her, you can see. And plus she's had morphine, so it took a lot longer, maybe a couple of hours by the time everyone had finished and my face had been x-rayed and a pot was on my arm, half a pot. And I was able to finally go home. And I just remember thinking, I just wanted someone to actually put their arms around me and tell me everything was going to be all right. I was going to be all right. And nobody did. Nobody ever did. And that has stayed with me for a long time, well, all the time.
Yeah.
And I never slept that night. And I went into the spare room. He said it was to give me some space. He didn't want to impinge on what had gone on. He didn't want to make things any worse. And I never slept, and I felt so lonely, so frightened. It was awful. And I was so glad to see daylight. And the police did come round and get a statement, and there was a female officer this time. And they were really understanding. And I was referred for counselling, which my partner at the time declined on our behalf, on my behalf. Things were really difficult then between us. He stayed away, he stayed at work, later hours, didn't want to be near me. He was quite horrified, not by what had happened, but his words were that I had allowed them to do those things to me. And I didn't allow them. I tried not to. But about a week later, I got up to a note on a scrap of paper in the kitchen just saying that he couldn't live with someone that behaved like a prostitute and allowed people to do those things to her. And he was leaving with a friend. They were going to work abroad. He paid the rent for the rest of the month, and then it was up to me what I did. But he couldn't be with someone like that. And that's when he said, if you want to keep your friends and don't want to end up alone, you should never tell anyone what you allowed to happen to yourself. And you really do deserve anything bad that happens to you, because that behaviour is really bad. You deserve nothing but bad things. And I believed it. I used that letter. That letter stayed by my bedside for years. I lived by it. Everything bad that happened. When I got breast cancer, I deserved it. It was because I deserved it. And so I didn't feel like I could tell people.
It's just the most horrendous thing that you went through, and just hearing it again is so tough. But I want to just say well done, because I know that you really want to share this story, and I know that you want to share this story not because it's easy.
It's not, no.
But because you want to be able to help others and raise awareness.
Yeah.
But I just want to just take a moment just to commend you for doing that, because I know that that is horrible to have to relive, and I know you've done a lot of work since, but it doesn't make that easy still.
No.
But thank you for sharing that, and I say that on the behalf of anybody that needs to hear this. Thank you on their behalf. I know that day when you shared it for the first time to me was it about 6 years after the incident?
Yeah, 6.5 years, I think.
So that 6.5 years since he left and since the incident, nobody knew. What was that 6.5 years of your life?
I just felt lonely and sad. I ended up on Prozac and temazepam because I couldn't sleep. I had nightmares, so I didn't go to sleep. And I just felt like a prisoner in my own home because I didn't dare go anywhere. I was just scared of my own shadow.
And the breast cancer, at what point were you diagnosed with that?
I have been, they call it remission from that for 18 months now. So it was only a couple of years ago, and it was picked up on a routine mammogram.
Right.
There were no lumps to feel, even they couldn't feel a lump.
Which I guess shows the importance of just going to the general checkups, and which is really
we get them free on the NHS, and it can't stress enough how important it is to go and make use of those things.
Yeah, wow.
Because that could have grown by the time I felt a lump to being a totally different ball game.
But that whole process of finding that out and receiving treatment, you were just dealing with it alone and believing you deserved it.
Yeah. So when I was in remission, it felt surreal, but that didn't last very long, because about 5-6 weeks later, there were 2 tumours spotted on my spine, which I'd had back pain for a long time, but because I had chosen to eat myself into a state where I felt I would be invisible to people. I didn't want people to notice me or to look at me.
Yeah.
And so everyone put it down to the fact that I was literally morbidly obese by then, and pretty immobile at that time as well.
But just to be clear, the weight gain was intentional.
Yeah.
Because of the rape.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I didn't want people to look at me. And I knew that they wouldn't. But then I didn't go anywhere because I couldn't literally walk. I had some amazing friends though, and they would just pack a wheelchair into the car and take me with them. I wasn't excluded. And I
you
was
still went
so
to like
grateful.
music gigs and stuff, and they would...
They rang the actual venue, and I knew I wouldn't be able to go, but they rang the venue. And they said they would put a bar stool out at the front, and we would get early access because I was in a wheelchair, but able to transfer onto a stool. So, and they never complained once that they were having to push me round.
Yeah.
Because I was morbidly obese at that time. So that was no easy task, pushing it around. But they have just stood by me through thick and thin.
And then at the point of that call where we had a coaching session together, can you remember what we spoke about then after you disclosed everything and what you did after that session?
You asked me to find that letter and burn it. And to prove that I'd done it, you made me video it and send it to you. And I did. And it was really difficult burning it. And I wanted to stop. But once the flame had taken hold, I couldn't. And I felt bereft almost. Like, what am I going to do? I haven't got this point of reference now. It's like a Bible almost.
Yeah, it was like your guide for life.
It was. I referred to it. Every time anything bad happened, I got that letter out, and it just reaffirmed that was what I deserved. And then I remember I'd sent a photograph to you, and it was like, oh, I can still see it. But you couldn't delete it on your end. I had to delete it on mine, and I did. And you also asked me to tell my friend. And I started to tell her. And she got so upset that I couldn't tell her everything. I literally ended up comforting her. And then a few days later, I realised I'd opened Pandora's box, if you like, because that was not me fixed at all. Mm-hmm. There was still a lot of things going on. And so I asked if we could book an actual course, a package of coaching. And we did. And we're still coaching now, 10 months later.
Talk to us about those first few months working together, because obviously the first thing was you reached out for help for the first time in 6.5 years. You shared your story for the first time. You had somebody confirm that it wasn't your fault, that you weren't somebody who deserved it for the first time in 6.5 years. You burnt the letter, and you finally disclosed it to a friend as well. But then, as you say, I felt like, even though these were huge strides forward, you almost felt, I guess, like you've now got a load more work to do. Because I guess to some degree, well, not even to some degree, but I guess you were completely avoiding dealing with the problem.
Yeah, big time.
It was still there every day. You still felt the problem present, but you weren't dealing with it.
Yeah.
And now
I wasn't
we were beginning
sleeping.
a journey.
I was having nightmares. I didn't sleep. I was scared to go to sleep.
And just to be clear on that as well, 6.5 years, what was the longest you slept straight through?
An hour, probably.
Wow. 6.5 years.
I would get more than that, but it would
be broken.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the most you would sleep consistently
uninterrupted would be about an hour. Yeah.
For 6.5 years.
Yeah.
And then those early days of working together. What can you remember?
Within a couple of weeks, I remember thinking, can I do it without the tablets? Because I'm not actually feeling anything here. And I think that is down to the Prozac and the temazepam. And that was working well because I didn't want to feel anything.
Right.
I didn't want to, because I didn't want to go there.
Yeah, yeah. So it helped you block out, avoid, numb emotion.
Yeah. So I decided to stop them. I did speak to my GP, we halved the dose of Prozac.
Yeah.
But because I was getting symptoms that I would probably have to go through it again when we'd stop them, I just stopped them.
So what were those symptoms?
I had horrendous diarrhea and abdominal pain.
Yeah.
Really not very nice.
So you made a decision, it's easier to just stop this properly.
Yeah.
And what was that like?
I started to feel things again, but it wasn't easy. But then I didn't want to stay where I was by then. I knew that there was hopefully going to be a way to start a better way of life, so that I felt differently about myself. Because I hated myself. I absolutely hated myself.
For anybody now that might be listening to this, that is in that position, and I think it's really important to say that, you know, we all have different journeys, different things that work for some people. You know, we're not saying to anybody, if you've been prescribed tablets, we're not saying, well, Carol stopped, you should stop. You know, speak to your GP and get the right advice and follow the path that's right for you. But if they're hearing that and they go, that's how I feel now, I hate myself, I don't want to be here, I feel I will never move past this. Is there anything you could say to them about what helped you be able to have the courage to ask for help and decide to stop taking the tablets and decide to feel again and decide to deal with instead of avoiding dealing with?
Because I was scared that I wouldn't actually live if I didn't. And it was that simple. I knew I was spiralling. If I didn't kill myself with drugs or anything, then I was just going to eat myself into a heart attack or a stroke.
Yeah.
And that did scare me. So
what was it in
traditional
there?
counselling I did try, and it didn't work. It wasn't the right thing for me.
Yeah.
At that time, I wasn't ready to talk to people about anything.
But you still tried it, right?
I did try it.
Yeah.
And it will work for some people.
Yeah.
It just wasn't the right fit for me, and it was probably too early on because I wasn't ready to talk to people.
Yeah.
And I knew nothing about, as I said, life coaching, but it was getting results, but slowly. And I think that's the key thing for me. It was baby steps, because it would have overwhelmed me and sent me back into that, I don't know, I refer to it as an abyss.
I think the key thing that I take from that that's important for people listening is you gave stuff a go.
Yeah.
And, you know, You did the tablets, you did the counselling, you did the life coaching, you came to the event. Even though what I understand from speaking to you, the largest part of you hated yourself and didn't want to be here, thankfully there was a small part of you that was like, I have to at least try something.
Yeah.
And when the first thing wasn't really working, you didn't just go, well, that's it, I'm done. You went, well, is there something else? And I think that's a message I really want to get out to anybody listening, that, you know, whatever it is that you might be going through right now, even if you've seen frigging 75 counsellors, therapists, coaches, it might be the 76th.
Yeah, don't stop
where
trying.
it works for you, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I'm not saying it's been easy, because it has not been easy. It's been a really tough journey.
You've hated me sometimes, haven't you?
I have, yeah.
All the time?
No, but it has been really hard work. It still is really hard work. On a daily basis, I still battle with demons. I make myself do something every single day that I know would have pissed him off, and that there would be repercussions for.
Such as what?
Well, I'm here in what should be black boots.
Yeah.
In his mind, and I have put pattern boots on.
And just to be clear, his mind...
That was my partner at the time.
Obviously, we should probably talk a little bit more about your relationship as well, because I know that's a massive part of your story and the awareness you want to raise today. Before we do, you know, you talked there about 6.5 years of not really sleeping at all, not wanting to necessarily be here a lot of the time, hating yourself, believing you deserve to have cancer. And as we sit here, literally today, you are 100 days cancer-free.
Today, yeah.
Today, which is absolutely amazing.
It is, yeah.
And you feel it's amazing, which is a difference in mindset, right? You want to live, you want to be here. I do,
yeah.
So it's 100 days. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Cancer-free.
Yeah.
And it's around 10 months since that first call that we had.
Yeah, it is.
Which isn't a lot of time. But here you are doing a bloody podcast.
Don't.
Talking about something you wouldn't speak to anybody about for 6.5 years. And I just want to highlight that point. What the fuck? What an amazing, incredible strength to go from 6.5 years of telling nobody, and then in 10 months, I don't want to shit you up a bit here, but telling the world, kind of. I mean, maybe not the world, but, you know, other people, let's say at least. How? For anyone listening, because, and again, specifically, I really want to hone in on anybody listening that's where you were 10 months ago, because I think that's the important thing, right? Is we want to give a little bit of hope potentially from this, from your journey. How in 10 months are you now sat here talking about this on a podcast?
I'm asking myself the same question. But working with you, I have to check in. I literally have to check in every single day. And you always gave me things to do. And when I found things that were tough, sometimes tough love came back. And taking on board what you said and doing what you'd said, even if it was tough love, it was difficult. But what was the option?
Yeah, what was the alternative, right?
But you always seem to know when to be encouraging and supportive and when to actually give me the kick up the backside that I needed. And that makes a difference, because if you got it wrong, it would have overwhelmed me, and that would have been probably the end of that working relationship.
And what were some of those things? What are some of the things maybe that you have in place today, and habits and changes in maybe mindset or, you know, routine? What are the things that you can attribute that have helped you move forward?
Journaling and gratitude. And my mindset is in a totally different place now, but it's through doing the things that you've got me to do. lies versus truth, which was a really difficult thing to accept.
Because you had these lies that you were believing to be true.
Oh, they were absolutely true.
Such as?
I wasn't good enough. I was to blame for everything. And
So just having somebody help guide you to identify what was reality versus these stories you were telling yourself, right?
Yeah. I remember I wrote something for you and you said, wow, you've got a real talent with words. You can write. And I'm like, I can't write. I'm not a writer.
Lies.
And that's what you said.
Yeah.
Limiting belief.
Yeah.
Which I still have a bit of that as well.
Which is all right. We all have it a little bit from time to time. But you've been writing.
Yeah.
And that's the key thing.
Yeah, I've started to write a book. Yeah. It's stopped at the moment because there's been so much other stuff going on.
Which again is life.
Yeah. Because I now have a business.
Tell us about that. Because again, this was not the path you were on, right? At all. Was it even a consideration ever?
No.
No,
never. I was not a business owner. I wasn't capable of that kind of thing.
Why are you now then?
Well, yeah. I learned differently. I wasn't even making cakes that were good enough to actually charge for. Or so I thought. And then I sent you some photos because you would ask me what kind of things I like to do, and like baking and making cakes and bread, it calms me. And I was doing them for friends and family and friends of friends, and I'd get a bottle of wine, which I don't drink, a box of chocolates, I don't like chocolate. And so, yeah, because I didn't think I could ask for money for them.
Because you didn't believe in what you were doing.
No.
And now?
Yeah, now it's, wow, it's doing really well.
I remember you sent me those first pictures and being like, oh shit. Oh shit, you have got one hell of a talent here.
You said these are even better than I thought they would be.
Truthfully, they were. You've never been somebody who was a professional or that's put it out there as being, this is what I do. I just knew you were what you were telling me, which is you have this bit of a hobby.
Yeah.
I didn't know you were bloody incredible at it. And I seen these pictures, and then of course naturally the next thought is, well, that's just a picture, I hope they taste good. And then you brought some to me. I tried them, and a couple of my friends tried them, and they actually, I remember them trying them not in front of you. And these are like some of my best mates, and I know them inside out. And if they genuinely thought they were shit and then were just going to lie to your face, I would know about that.
I know, and you would have told me.
I would have told you, yeah. I wouldn't lie. I'd be like, maybe they need some work. But I got the opportunity to see them have it behind your back sort of thing and get their truthful response. Because they were vegetarian.
They were sugar-free and
Sugar-free, gluten-free, right. And especially, I'm thinking of one friend in particular, you'll know who I mean. Like, he's big on not having healthier alternatives, let's just say. He likes it done proper. And he was genuinely like, oh my God, these are amazing. And I was like, thank God. And I bit it and I was like, not only do they look amazing, they genuinely taste amazing. And the healthier alternatives don't taste like healthier alternatives. They actually taste full fat, full everything, right?
Yeah.
So what was that shift like, starting to believe in the value you had to offer?
That took a while.
Yeah.
I didn't actually believe it. And it overwhelmed me because I put some photos in the Success School Facebook group.
Yeah, you did.
To get some feedback for evidence to prove to myself that people would pay.
Because just to pick you up on that point, because I think it's important when we talk about changing beliefs. Something that I speak about is it's not enough to just look in the mirror and go, I believe I'm great at baking cakes, or, tell yourself incantations, affirmations, all these things that we hear about in the kind of self-development world. To some degree, there's a part in that, changing the story in your mind. But really, the biggest thing that will change a person's belief is substantial evidence.
Yeah.
So I teach a lot about how can we physically get evidence, which is why you then put that in the group. And what came back?
The feedback was just phenomenal. I think it was Matt Zena that said, these are not home baking cakes. These are premium quality cakes that should be charged at a premium quality price.
Yep.
And that literally, I went into a, as you said, a negative fear spiral.
Yeah.
It was overwhelmed me, and I was like, no, I can't do that. I'm not good enough to do that. And that's when your really quick voice note, as you said, was 10 minutes long.
Or was it? Sorry.
Yes. Then you sent another one afterwards saying, I'm really sorry, I lied to you.
That wasn't quick.
You were really, gave me the hard word, really. And I went away and I played it again. And I listened to what you said, and I did reframe it. And I sent you a message having reframed it, and you were like, oh my God, this is amazing. As a coach, you said that was one of the best things. And it would have been really easy to say, oh, sod you, I'm not, I don't want to listen to that today. I'm in a negative spiral, and I just want you to say it's okay. But you didn't.
No.
Because it wasn't. And so, and I started a side hustle because a business was way too scary
We didn't
a word.
like that word, did we?
No.
couldn't deal with that.
And then your side hustle then
Became a business.
became a business accidentally. Ooh. And amazing opportunities come out of that. I mean, one that comes to mind is when you sponsored our event in July and sold out.
That was when I actually launched the business properly.
Yeah.
And I was so nervous to do that.
You weren't going to charge. Do you remember? We had a coaching call and you said, I'm thinking of just coming to your event. It's a bit of awareness and I just want to
I'll bring
give
some
everyone a
samples.
treat. Yeah. And then you did charge and you
Because
sold
you
out.
said I had to.
Yep. I bloody did. And you did. And you sold out.
Yeah.
What was that like?
That was such a good feeling. Yeah. And slowly, I remember saying to you, I'm getting a happy feeling back in my life that hasn't been there for at least a decade.
Wow. I remember it vividly. And I remember thinking, wow, because at that point, it had been 6-7 months, whatever, from not wanting to share with anybody, from not having a business, from not even wanting to be here at times, from not feeling at times, right? From just feeling nothing, to saying I actually can feel happiness again. And what about the sleep?
That's a work in progress. But we do have a routine and I do sleep meditation.
What's our record at the moment?
5 hours and 11 minutes.
Wow.
I know.
6.5 years, you couldn't get past an hour.
Longer. It was more like 15 because of something that had happened in my relationship that I didn't sleep properly then.
At what point was it that we'd been working together? Because obviously when you came to me, as we've sort of shared today, there was this coming to terms with the incident and the fact that your partner had left you and told you it was your fault and you should never share that with anybody. Then we did something that is known as timeline therapy.
Yeah.
What happened there? What was that about?
I remember feeling really vulnerable because I literally had to sit there with my eyes closed and trust you completely to keep me safe, I feel like. Even though I was sat in my own house, I felt quite vulnerable.
Yeah.
But I did trust you. But I guess you had to trust me to do what you asked me to do.
It's a two-way thing, 100%, yeah.
But it was really emotional, really powerful. And you took me back to being a child, and I remember saying that I'd always wanted to be a nurse. I had always on my list, Christmas list, that every year was a nurse's uniform.
Yeah.
Every year. I always wanted to be a nurse.
And you became one, right?
Yeah.
How many years?
I did 30 odd years.
Wow.
Yeah. Adult and children's.
And I remember as well something that I came to really learn about you is just how much happiness you get from helping others.
Yeah. I know that I was put on this earth to actually look after people and help people. And that is part of why I'm doing this today.
Yeah.
Because this is not easy.
So we went back to childhood. You sort of came to terms with all, you recognised that you'd always wanted to be a nurse, and you sort of reconnected with your younger self, right?
Yeah. I did. Yeah. And she was dead happy. Yeah.
And what else came out of those sessions?
I started having flashbacks then.
Things that had not
Things
been
that
in your
I
mind.
had not... Well, I don't remember them until I had these flashbacks. And they were literally really vivid and physical reaction to things. Because it felt like it was happening again.
I can remember I've never witnessed, when I've done that exercise with somebody, I've never witnessed somebody physically change so much. I remember you saying your mouth was dry, you needed water.
That was the second timeline therapy.
Yeah, because we did a few sessions just going back and just going through different things, didn't we?
And I was still not sleeping, so you wanted to try and find out where it started.
That's right.
And I literally thought I was going to be sick.
Yeah.
There and then.
Yeah.
On that call. But I still kept my eyes closed. But I almost lost your voice then. Because I was really back there. And it felt so real.
If you're happy, because I know this is another big one, but only as much as you're happy and willing to share.
I was having flashbacks, and when we did the second timeline therapy, you asked me to go back to a night when I can remember sleeping properly, the last time I slept properly, and then what happened to change that. And I remember saying, oh, I can't go into that room. That's our room. I can't go in there. Something bad is happening. And you were like, no, you're okay. Just open the door, go in. And I really didn't want to. That sense of dread, that fear, it was real fear. I thought I wouldn't be able to speak. My mouth really was dry. It was awful. And, yeah. And I remember my partner then waking me up by trying to suffocate me with the pillow. We had a conversation. He was into or wanted to try erotic asphyxiation, and I didn't. And so that was his way of trying it. And it woke me up. And at that time, I was able to get out of the way and out of the bed and run across to the spare room, or almost made it to the spare room, but he managed to get hold of me and pushed me. And our flat was like a half house. So the front door, you went straight up the stairs to our flat, and round the back was the lower flat. And I fell down the stairs and landed at the bottom of the door. And I know that was my fault, because I didn't fall the way I was supposed to fall. And he was so apologetic. But then, about a week later, he tried again. And this time his hands were around my throat. And I had some bruises and cracked ribs and couldn't get out from underneath him. So he actually managed to rape me that night.
And just to be clear, when you came to start working with me on that first session, is it true to say you had no knowledge that your previous partner had raped you before?
No. That was such a shock.
Because you just completely blanked it from memory, right?
Yeah. And that in itself was, how on earth did you forget something like that? And I know you explained, but it took me a long time to forgive myself for not being able to remember that and not getting out of that relationship.
And to be clear, what I explained was along the lines of it being about survival and your brain protecting you and doing what you needed to do to cope.
Yeah. You did.
Because what we really uncovered, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I mean, if you're happy to share, like, how long was you with this person and how would you describe it today with what you know?
I was with him for a couple of decades. And now it was abusive, but I never said that. I buried all of that as well. And we discovered lots of things where some of my limiting beliefs about wearing the colour red came from, because I wasn't allowed to wear red because it made me look like a prostitute.
So he said.
Yeah. And I know I'd gone out to meet him and a couple of friends wearing red lipstick and red boots. And when I got home, he pulled me by my hair and used like a pan scrubber to scrub the red lipstick off my face until my lips were bleeding. And cut up the boots so that I couldn't embarrass him again. But I'd forgotten all about that. Yeah.
And again, I want to be mindful, Carol, you share what you're happy to share, leave out what you want to leave out, know that we can edit any of this if we need to edit it. But there's also the mirror work. That's a more recent thing you did.
Yeah. You got me to start, because I don't like myself. I didn't even have a mirror, not a full length mirror. I had a little makeup mirror.
And I just want to question that. Do you not like yourself?
I'm getting there now. Yeah. Better than I was. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm not totally. I like myself more than I did.
Yeah.
So I am getting there. But I couldn't even get the mirror out of the box because I had a massive flashback that day and I put it back in the box. And that flashback was awful. And it was to a time when I was pregnant and we had found out that our daughter wouldn't survive when she was born, and I'd been offered a termination. But I would have had to deliver her because of how far on I was. Or I could wait. And I wanted to wait because I wanted to actually hold her in my arms for however long that was. But he didn't. And I ruined fatherhood for him, he said. I couldn't even do that properly. And I just thought that was literally the first inkling that I had that's of the bad side to him, that there was a bad side to him. Because the person I fell in love with was charming, intelligent and caring. So that was when it first started. And he was literally so mad that he grabbed me as I came out of the shower and stood me in front of the mirror in the bedroom. And he broke the mirror and got hold of a piece of glass. And he said, maybe I should just cut her out now then. Just get it over with. And then he threw the piece of glass down and walked off. And when he came back, sweetness and light, flowers and chocolates and charming, and booked a holiday, and we had the most romantic, wonderful time away, and I just fell back in love with him. Because it was a one-off, and I just thought...
But to be clear, the actual incident you described now, again, had gone from your memory until just recently.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't remember it until I got that mirror out.
And then, obviously, you disclosed this to me and we worked through it, and then we continued with the mirror work actually on the call, didn't we?
Yeah, because I was struggling with it. And you made me take the laptop upstairs to the mirror and said, well, we're going to do it now.
Well, I'm on the
going
call.
to do it with you.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I can't look at... Why can't you? And because I know what's under there. I remember saying, I know what's underneath that dress. And I don't want to look. And so, what is there? I said, well, there's scars. And I'm okay with the breast cancer scar. Because that saved my life. And it's not massive and it's hot. It's not ugly. And you kept, well, what other scars are there? And you pushed and pushed, and I did, well, there are some cigarette burns. And you said, how many are we talking about? And I said, about 15. And then I corrected myself and said 15. And you did make me go and look at them. And you made me stand and look at them as if I was a nurse looking at someone that I was looking after in my department. And I could see it differently then. But it took another session of doing that for it to actually really take hold and for me to be able to keep doing it myself.
Yeah. And just to be clear as well, I said, I don't want to turn the camera away.
Yeah.
I just want to hear your voice and know you're doing it.
Yeah.
And we talked about this idea, as you said there, about you're looking at Carol, but you're the nurse, Carol.
Yeah.
Looking at her. And what changed in that?
When I've got my nurse's head on, it was like, oh my God, she's been through hell. That will have been so painful. And they were. And I just couldn't look at them because they're ugly. And I remember getting them. And I remember trying not to react. And so when I didn't react were when the ugly ones came, because he just would light the cigarette and put it out on me again in the same place. And how I didn't react, because honestly I can't tell you how painful that was. But he did get fed up of doing it because he wasn't getting a reaction.
And that's why you didn't react.
Yeah.
Survival.
Yeah.
So what we started to work through, as I remember it, is rather than feeling it was weakness and that you'd done something unforgivable by allowing him to keep doing this, you started to realise that if you did allow him, it meant he stopped, and if he stopped, it meant you survived.
Yeah. And
you started to actually see the scars as strength. Wow, look at what I was able to take. And I think we spoke about the analogy of, is it like a soldier?
Yeah, you did.
Coming back from war.
Battle scars.
And you would never look down on that soldier and go, how ridiculous that you got hurt at war. Like, you would say, wow, you survived.
Yeah.
And was that useful, looking at it like that?
It was, yeah. It helped change. It didn't happen overnight.
No.
But it's really hard making yourself do something that you don't want to do. But you know that you're going to get results from. So I did persevere, and I still persevere with it now.
Thank you so much, Carol, for sharing this. I can only imagine there's nobody listening to this that hasn't got anything but love and admiration, and I'm sure a lot of inspiration from listening to you today. And we just want to reiterate, obviously we've got the numbers wherever you're listening or watching to this episode, the numbers to the helplines. If you know of anybody or suspect of anybody that is going through a situation that might be domestic abuse, being in a violent relationship, rape, anything like that, or if you yourself are in that position, there's a whole host of charities, isn't there? And
There is.
and all the links are here. So please, I think if there's one major thing you must take away from listening today is that Carol, even though it wasn't easy, even though it's been hard, right, you did ask for help.
Yeah.
And that's what we want to say today is there is help available.
Oh, yeah.
Keep asking, keep looking for help. Don't give up on yourself, right?
Yeah. If I hadn't, I don't think I would be here, sitting here. I don't think I would be on this earth right now.
But you are.
Yeah.
And you've just done a bloody podcast on it. I mean, 10 months ago, you were in a position where you couldn't even tell one person your story, where you'd spent 6.5 years believing you deserved everything bad that happened to you, and that should you share this story, then you could expect to be alone.
Bad things would happen. Yeah.
What do you think now?
I'm hoping good things will happen. That somebody might see this and get the help they need. And then it'll have been worthwhile.
And let's be clear, you're in a much different place. Your life, I mean, you've got friends everywhere. Like, there's so many friends. There's so many people that love you. You get out now.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you want to talk about the fat loss, the journey that you've been on with your health, and also what the doctors said to you. I mean, do you want to just share a little bit of the frigging amazing things? Have you not just defied the law of physics and science in the last few months? Tell us about that.
I got onto a drug trial for the tumours on my back because they were pretty fast growing and traditional treatment wasn't working. So I got onto something called targeted chemo, which is really unpleasant and very painful. But I was meant to start walking and helping myself, trying to lose some weight. But I wasn't doing any of that at all because I really didn't care.
Yeah.
And then when you heard me say that, well, like, that's it, we're changing that today. Literally. And I had to go out for a walk and I couldn't go far, but I had to go and I had to check in with you and I couldn't lie to you, so I had to do it first. I just couldn't lie to you because you would have known, I'm sure, anyway.
Yeah.
So I literally had to start doing it. But the thing, it was so painful to walk.
Yeah.
Really painful.
And we literally said about like just a few steps practically to begin with, didn't we? We really took baby steps.
Yeah,
with it.
yeah. If you'd have made me go to the gym, it wouldn't have happened. We'd have been divorced.
Yeah. This relationship would be no more.
Yeah.
But you did it.
I did. And things started to improve. And as I was able to walk more, you then added in healthier eating. And you didn't do everything at once, which is what worked. You let me get used to something first before adding something else in, so you didn't overwhelm me. And from being behind on the trial and almost losing my place on the drug trial, I finished the trial. The tumours had gone and I've got more flexibility and mobility back than they predicted that I would. In fact, than other people have had so far.
Can you remember what they predicted and what you did?
Well, I was on course to get about 65% of my movement and mobility back because I was behind. You can get up to 75% back on this trial with the physio as well. And I actually got 78 point something back. So I went above what the trial had had previously. And
What did they say to you? Like,
well, they did ask, because in my notes it had all been documented: isn't trying, doesn't seem to care. And then they noted that things had changed. I was interacting with other people. I did seem to care. I was trying. And so they asked what had changed. And I remember saying, I'm working with a mindset, a life coach. And people were like, oh, I don't believe in that. But it's clearly working for you. And it was, and it is. And yeah, so I am able to walk. I will always have issues with just, it's more when I'm just standing, because the pressure, there is a lot of scar tissue and a lot of damage on my spine.
yeah.
And I got a stark reminder recently when I went to a gig and I stood and I didn't sit or do the things that I knew I should have done, and I paid the price for a couple of days.
Yeah.
I literally suffered.
Yeah.
But every day was like that. So that reminded me.
Wow, look how far you've come, sort of thing.
Yeah. Plus, I don't want to get that pain again. So, I have to. There's a chance, you push, yes, when you know you can, but there are limitations and boundaries, and I have to live with those. But that's not when you think I'm still living.
And you was in a wheelchair.
Yeah. On the point of having to move house because I wouldn't have been able to get up the steps. And I don't have a wheelchair. I don't have it. I don't even have my crutches anymore now.
And the weight loss has been pretty fast as well. I mean, it's been slow and steady, but you've...
Yeah, I know. Yeah, from where I was to where I am now. I still have a bit more to go. But yeah, we've got 80 pounds.
It's amazing.
It's unbelievable.
And a thriving business.
Yeah.
And the beginning of a new chapter starts today, right?
Yeah.
100 days cancer-free, and now you want to start to give back. Do you want to just let people know exactly what you are beginning and what you want to invite people that feel aligned to it?
I'm actually about to launch a Facebook and Instagram platform called Flare, Find Life After Rape Exists, for anyone to join, male or female, who has had experiences of rape or domestic abuse. But I want it to be a positive place. I want people to share stories that will inspire, stories, poems, artwork. And on the back of that, we have got a coffee morning coming up in November.
Well, you have. I'm just going to show up.
No, we have. And
No,
we've
you
got
have.
speakers.
I'm not having this, Carol. It's yours. But I will make an appearance if you drag me along, okay? It's yours, though.
Yeah, with people coming from various places, from victim support, from the Rape Crisis Centre, Healing Through the Arts. We've got speakers coming just to talk for half an hour about what their roles are and how to access them. And even people who haven't been affected, so that they know what's available if they've got friends or colleagues that they're worried about, and how to get the help that is out there.
That's something that I think is really key in terms of what I hear you want to do with Flare, which is you don't want to exclude people. And what your experiences have been from some of the other groups, and we understand why, of course, which is, it's like a woman-only group and things like that, right?
Yeah.
But for you believe anyone can be a victim.
Yeah.
And also it's not healthy or useful in terms of a healing process to start demonizing. I mean, you also understand there's levels of sensitivity and people are at different points in the journey, like you spoke about today, about when you was on that night and you was at hospital, you would have preferred a woman to examine you and things like that. So it's not that we don't understand there's a time and a place, but as a general community, you want to inspire and encourage anybody and everybody to talk and to raise awareness, right?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. The more that we can get it out there, so people don't feel like I did, that you couldn't mention it, that it's not. I remember sharing our testimonial and someone putting underneath it that why would she do that, sharing a dirty washing in public and demonising men, and it was hard enough to get a date. And that really did upset me, and you messaged me and said just block them and delete them, and I think you said fuck them actually.
Probably.
Yeah. And yeah, but I do want anybody to feel free to share, but to share in a positive way, because a lot of the groups that are out there that I went into were actually keeping me there in that dark place, because everything was so negative. I remember one comment saying, well, my body is a crime scene and I have to live in it for the rest of my life. And then I thought, oh God, that's so true.
Yeah.
And I told you about that comment, and you helped me to reframe that, because crime scenes don't remain closed off as a crime scene forever. You know, they're opened up, houses are sold, roads are opened up, and people do move on. So I actually did come out of those groups, because a lot of the comments wasn't, and most of them are just posting quotes. Some of the quotes are positive, but the comments are really, really negative.
Yeah. And again, understandably,
Yeah.
it's a tough thing to come to terms with, but you want to be that voice to say, you're not living in a crime scene forever. There is life beyond. There is hope. There is starting a business, beating cancer, losing fat, getting healthier, getting fitter, getting stronger, and now there is giving back and helping others because of your experience, right?
Yeah. Don't give up. The alternative is just awful. It doesn't bear thinking about. The alternative for me doesn't bear thinking about, because like I said, I wouldn't be sitting here. I wouldn't be here. I know I wouldn't. I was just on a self-destruct path.
Carol, well done. You've done it. Thank you so much. I think this is such a difficult but equally important, so important conversation to have and to bring awareness. And also for you individually. I know this is, you want to do this for other people. I know at the heart of you, you're a caring person. You want to give back. But I think you needed to do this to prove to yourself that you should be sharing your story. If people have resonated today, and if there's some people that want to join the Flare group and also come to the coffee morning, do you want to just give the information? How can they get involved with the group? When's the coffee morning? How do they come along?
The coffee morning is November the 28th, and it's from 10 till 12:30 at Q10, which is Queen Street in Huddersfield, and it's attached to the Lawrence Batley Theatre. There is wheelchair access, and the toilets are upstairs, but there is a lift. So if anyone has mobility issues, that's all sorted as well. There will be refreshments provided and some, homemade muffins, yes.
Homemade, or are they provided by a top business called Piece of Cake? Which one is it?
Both.
All right, I'll give you that. Meet me halfway.
Yeah.
And it's completely free. It's just come along.
It is completely free, yeah. And there is parking in the Kingsgate Centre in Huddersfield, and it's literally 5 minutes walk away from the venue itself.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. And like you say, it's
we
just
have
to bring
got
people
speakers
together.
coming to talk about their roles and how you can access their help.
Yeah.
And it looks like someone from Ask for Angela is going to come along as well, and someone from the night safety buses. So
amazing.
A lot of different people coming to speak, and obviously we are going to be speaking about our journey.
Yep, and it won't be long, like you say, it's a few hours. You know,
Yeah.
and it's not going to be loads of people there. I mean, we don't know unless this goes viral and we end up with millions there. We might need to rethink the venue, but it's just a safe space
Yeah.
for people to come together that have maybe been affected by this or just want to educate themselves. That's what we're saying, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
And the groups, do you want to just plug them so people know to come and follow and get involved if they want to?
On Instagram, it's Flare Survivor, and on Facebook, it's Flare. And yeah, they are open, but I haven't posted anything other than I've pinned the numbers to both groups. And I actually had a message from someone yesterday to say that because the group's public, they weren't going to join because they didn't want to share their story, but that the numbers were what she was looking for.
Great. So already
Somebody has taken a number away to get something that'll hopefully help them.
Amazing. And that's all live now. People can join it right now. And just to be clear as well, whether you're listening to this on audio or watching on YouTube, the links to join Carol's Facebook group and Instagram page are there. So you can head straight over there as well. I'm going to give you a massive hug in a minute. But as we discussed about, you know, prior to doing this episode, there's one question that I ask every guest.
Yeah.
And I think the incredible inspirational story you've shared of courage, of growth, of fighting, and ultimately of surviving, I feel sat here today that there's never been a guest that I've wanted to ask this question to more than you. So, Carol, what is your definition of success?
It's not anything profound, in all fairness. For me, being able to say that I am proud of myself without fear of repercussions, because that word has had an awful lot of negativity attached and violence attached to it before. And today I feel proud of myself. Yeah. Like I said, nothing profound, but for me it is massive.
I think it's pretty profound. Carol, thank you. I'm giving you that bloody hug now. Come here. Well done. You did it.
Yeah.
You did it. And now we've got work to do. Love.